At the end of Women of the Bible, Rebecca, we saw Jacob fleeing from his brother Esau because he tricked their dad Isaac and collected Esau's birthright, the blessings. He collected his blessing, which Isaac was prepared to give to Esau, but with the aiding and abetting of their mom, Rebecca, Jacob was given that blessing instead by their father Isaac. So Esau was gunning to kill his brother Jacob. So their mom Rebecca told Jacob to flee to her brother Laban in Haran, and he should stay there until the anger has gone, until Esau forgets about this wrongdoing that Jacob did to him, even though it was her idea, Rebecca's idea. So we saw Isaac blessing Jacob and sending him off to Haran, his mom's family, to go and what they told Isaac was he's going there to marry, to get a wife. And that's why he's leaving Canaan, Shechem, where they were living, and didn't necessarily tell him the truth, that is because Esau wants to kill Jacob. So Jacob sets off to go to Haran, where his mother's brother Laban lives. So on the way, there's other things that happened, but that's not for this book. Today we're talking about Rachel. So on the way, he stops at Padan Aram at a well, maybe to take a breather, or he doesn't exactly know where Laban lives. But Padan Aram and Haran are not far from each other. It's the same area. So he settles at the well. He sees some shepherds who have brought their animals to be watered and asks them, where are they from? They say they are from Haran. So he goes, oh, okay. So do you know Laban? Because that's where Laban is from, Haran. And they said, yeah, we do. Even that's his daughter, Rachel, on her way now to come and water her sheep. So she comes here every time at this time of every day at this time. So when Jacob sees Rachel, he goes to single-handedly roll the stone away from the well, and he waters Rachel's flock. He waters all the animals, and then he introduces himself to her by saying, my mom and your dad are brothers and sisters. So he weeps on her neck and everything, and Rachel goes home to go and tell her dad Laban what has transpired at the well. So Laban now goes and he sees Jacob. He welcomes him because this is his sister's son. So Jacob goes with Laban and stays with him. So they welcome him into their family. So when Jacob is there about a month, Laban says, okay, even though we are relatives, it's not right for you to work for me free. So name your wages. How much do you want me to pay? And I will pay you a salary. And because Jacob loves Rachel, who is the youngest, Laban has two daughters, Leah, the older, and Rachel, the younger. He says, I will work for you 7 years in exchange for Rachel, because I want to marry her. I love her. And Laban says, okay, that's a fair price. It's a deal. So Jacob starts working for his uncle Laban. And even though it's 7 years, because he so much loves Rachel, the time goes very quickly. He doesn't even know that it's 7 years because he's so much in love with Rachel. At the end of the 7 years, he goes to his father-in-law, almost his father-in-law, and says, right, I have worked for you for 7 years. Give me my wife. You know, let me take my wife. I've paid the price for her. And Laban says, okay. So he organizes a wedding feast. It's a huge celebration and everything. And in the evening, he takes Rachel to go and meet her new husband in the tent. So then the marriage is consummated, and in the morning Jacob wakes up, he stretches himself, he's so happy, he's the happiest man alive, he's just married the woman of his dreams, and he turns, and on the bed the Bible says, behold, it was Leah. So Jacob must have done a double take. Am I drunk? Leah, what are you doing in my bed? So he goes to his father-in-law and says, you tricked me. I worked for Rachel, not Leah. What is this you have done? And then Laban says, it's not our custom, it's not our culture to marry off the younger daughter before the older. We have to marry them off in that way. So you can't marry Rachel while Leah is still single. You know, which was a deception, because even though Laban knew this, and it is a culture, and nobody is saying go against culture, he should have told Jacob that you can marry Rachel, but not before Leah gets married first. So until she gets married, you won't be able to marry Rachel. You can work 7 years, but we do, and then maybe they could have found her a husband by hook or crook. But he kept that. He did not tell him. But there you go. Jacob, he deceived his dad. He pretended to be who he was not to receive a blessing. And here, he also was deceived. So the supplanter was also supplanted. He was deceived in a big way. So Laban tells Jacob that, okay, you need to do the 7 days wedding feast for Leah. Finish that, and then I will give you Rachel, and then you work 7 years for Rachel. So that would be 14 years for the two sisters. So after the 7 days marriage feast, like a honeymoon, where he'll be sleeping with his wife, was over, Laban now gave him Rachel as well. And the Bible says that Leah was not loved, Rachel was. It was his favorite wife, the love of his life. I mean, I don't think Jacob has done anything wrong here, because he saw Leah before he said he wanted Rachel. The Bible says Rachel was very beautiful. Leah was soft eyes. So either she had a squint, or she was cross-eyed, or her eyes were just soft, like red rimmed from crying a lot. We don't know, but she wasn't as beautiful as Rachel. And Jacob made his choice. He wanted Rachel, not Leah. So he did not love Leah. He loved Rachel. So the Bible says, so God opened Leah's womb because she was not loved. And obviously she must have been praying and crying to God every day that her husband doesn't love her. And she could have babies. You know, she was just getting pregnant and thinking with each son that her husband would love her, but he loved Rachel. And then after a while, Rachel now goes to her husband, holds him by the collar, says, give me children or I will die. Give me children. And Jacob was furious and said, am I in the place of God? Am I the one who has blocked your womb? What nonsense are you talking about? You know, so he says, he used the same words that Joseph used. When the brothers were frightened that he's alive, despite all what they did to him. And Joseph said, am I in the place of God? You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. So Jacob used those same words. Am I in the place of God? I'm not the one who is withholding you from having babies. And obviously, it's nothing wrong with me. I'm sterile. You can see the other children where he would not say that to her. But you know what I mean. And then, so she decided to give her maid Bilhah to her husband, so that Bilhah can have children for her husband, for her, like a surrogate mom. So we can see this was common back in those days. If we remember Sarah and Hagar, this is what happened as well. When Sarah could not have a baby for her husband Abraham, she gave her maid Hagar to her husband, so she will have a baby for her to the husband, so like a surrogate mom. And then that turned sour. It did not end well. So here Rachel is doing the same thing, that okay, take Bilhah my maid and she'll have children for me, for you. And Bilhah has two sons, Dan and Naphtali, for Jacob on behalf of Rachel. So one day, Leah's son found some mandrakes. It's a plant in the bush or wherever. He found them and he brought them home and gave them to his mom, Leah. So when Rachel saw these mandrakes are supposed to have some potency about them. They have some healing properties, like they can heal barrenness. If men have fertility issues, there's supposed to be something about the plant. So I don't think it's readily found. It's not just something you can just walk out and you can see mandrakes and pull them. They must be really rare to find. So she sees Leah's son with the mandrakes and he gives it to Leah. So Rachel goes to her sister Leah and says, please, can you give me some of your son's mandrakes? And Leah says, not only have you stolen my husband, you also want my son's mandrakes. And Rachel, who is desperate, thinking, okay, these mandrakes may just be the thing she needs so she can have a baby, tells Leah that, okay, I will let you sleep with our husband tonight. Just give me some of the mandrakes. So Leah gives Rachel some of the mandrakes. And then when Leah sees their husband Jacob, she tells him that, yeah, you have been sold for some mandrakes, so you are sleeping with me tonight. And Jacob goes and sleeps with Leah that night. And then not soon afterwards, God remembers Rachel and she gets pregnant and she has a son, Joseph. So maybe there is something in those mandrakes that she must have eaten that night. She gets pregnant, she has a son, Joseph. And so after this, Jacob calls his wives and says he wants to leave because Laban is not treating him right. These 10 times he has deceived him out of his wages. He's being manipulative. He doesn't look at him right. There's a whole lot of issue. So he wants to leave, and the daughters, Leah and Rachel, agree that, yeah, it's true. Our dad is not being fair. Even the bride price he collected for us should be for us, but he didn't give it to us. He kept it. So they all decided to leave and go with their husband. So in the night, you know, he packed his stuff and they leave. Jacob, the wives, the maids, the children, all the animals that he had acquired legally from his father-in-law, they go. And then after, I think about 3 days, Laban suddenly finds out that they've all run away. He pursues because he thinks Jacob has stolen the gods, his idols, his statues. And whoever owns those idols is the one with the power. It's like the C of O for a land, certificate of occupancy, or the deeds. It is similar to that. So whoever has that C of O is the rightful owner of the land. Can say, this land belongs to me, this is my proof. This house belongs to me, this is my deeds, this is my proof. So those gods are like, whoever holds them has the power. So Laban pursues and accuses Jacob of stealing their gods. And Jacob says, what do I want to do with your gods? Please search my camp. If you find it, whoever stole it should die, should not live. Let the person die. Because Jacob did not know that Rachel, his favorite wife, had taken the gods when she was leaving, and she hid it in the camel's saddle, and she sat on it and told her dad that she can't get down to greet him properly because it was that time of month. So Laban searches the whole tents, the whole camp. He can't find the gods. And they made the covenant that they will not harm each other. So Laban goes back to his hometown, Haran, and Jacob continues his journey back to Shechem in Canaan. So he continues. So there's some issue about Dinah, Jacob's daughter, that was raped by a man in Shechem, and his sons killing the men in Shechem. But I won't dwell in that. You can go and read that if you want, because we're talking about Rachel in this Women of the Bible, Rachel. So so along the way, Rachel gets pregnant again. However, when she's having the baby, a son, a younger brother for Joseph, she dies in when she's having the baby. So in her dying breath, she names the baby Ben-Oni, but her husband Jacob renames him Benjamin. So we don't know if Rachel dying had anything to do with Jacob saying, whoever taking your gods will die and not live. So he inadvertently pronounced a curse on his favorite wife, or maybe because of what Jacob's sons did to the men at Shechem, God was not pleased. We really don't know. Or it could just be a hard labor, because in those days there were not really that medical assistance we have nowadays. And even there's still some countries in our time now where the mortality rate is quite high for women in labor and new babies. So we don't know. It just be conjecture if I say this is the reason why she died, but we don't know. It could be a bit of everything. So she dies, and she was buried along the road where they were passing. So she's the only one who was not buried in the cave at Machpelah, where Sarah was buried, Abraham, even Leah, who was not loved, she was buried there. So it's likely because they were far away from the place, and their culture, they had to bury their dead as soon as possible. So they couldn't carry the dead body because they won't be able to embalm it and keep it. So she was just buried along the way, and that was how Rachel died, Jacob's favorite wife. So this is the women of the Bible, Rachel, because we did Sarah and we did Rebecca. So this is Rachel, and I'm just going to touch briefly on Leah in the next book, very briefly. It won't be long, maybe 5 minutes. And so thank you so much for joining me in Women of the Bible. So I really appreciate your views. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your subs. Keep them coming. God bless you. Bye.